What I'm going to attempt to do today is to model for you. Well, I'm not going to model. Look at me. I'm going to use my little toy soldiers to help me model or demonstrate to you how the multiplying and dividing integers results in the solutions that it does pertaining to its sign, such as positive or negative. And I don't know if you've heard it or not, but it's a little bit different than adding or subtracting integers. When we add integers, if both signs are negative, the answer is negative. If both signs are positive, the answer is positive. If one sign is negative, the other is positive, then it can go either way depending on the absolute value of the one of the particular integers in the problem. Now, with multiplication and division, the rules are if you multiply or divide numbers that have the same sign, the answer is going to be positive. If you multiply or divide numbers that each have a different sign, then the answer is going to be negative. And I'm going to show you, or at least try to show you. It may not really work out that well. I don't know how good at it I really am. And this is important because this is why you guys should stay in school and don't drop out in the 8th grade. Then you might not have this problem, these issues. For me, I don't want to be what you are achieving to be, sunburnt, poor, and playing with toy soldiers, at 40 something. So what I'm going to do is use these toy soldiers to try to show you why this happens. And hopefully you will understand it, but if you don't, that's no big deal. You don't have to understand it. You do not have to understand this stuff. It's not, you don't desperately need to know why this occurs. You just really ultimately need to know that it happens and just do it. That's all you have to do. It's like a Nike moment. So just take the rules and go with those. If you understand it, great. If you don't, it's no big deal. It's not going to hurt you anywhere. Really, the only place you'll ever need it is if you do a higher level mathematics, or maybe even, just to get through a quiz or a test or something like that. It's no way that it's going to cause you to fail a test because you don't know why this occurs. But I'm going to attempt to help you understand it. And like I said, I may not even be able to do that much, but I'm going to do my best. So let's go ahead and jump into this one. I'm going to start with what I think is one of the easiest things to understand about the multiplying and dividing with positives and negatives, and that's my 3 groups of 3. I have 3 positive groups, and in each group I have 3 positive soldiers. So each of these soldiers is positive. Well, each of my groups, so we'll pretend like I have a group here that's positive. The group here is positive, and the group here is positive. And by group, I mean sets. So I have 3 sets, 3 positive sets of 3 positive soldiers. So I have positive and positives. So I have 3 sets of positive 3 soldiers. Altogether, how many soldiers do I have? I have 9 soldiers. This is why a 3 times a 3 equals 9. A positive times a positive equals a positive. Now you look at this example and think, okay, there's absolutely no difference than the previous example. And you are correct. I have 3 positive sets of 3 positive soldiers each. But this time I want to change my positive set to a negative set. I want to keep my soldiers positive, but I want to switch the set. I want to take the negative of the 3 sets. I started with 3 sets. I want to take the negative of 3. And if I take the negative of the 3, I'm basically taking the opposite of it. So I want to take the opposite of a positive set and make it a negative set. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm not changing each individual soldier to its opposite. I'm changing the set to its opposite. So I'm exchanging out each of my soldiers in the set to make the opposite of the set. And what this gives me is a negative 3 sets of positive 3 soldiers. So now I have negative 3 sets of positive 3 soldiers. But this time I end up with negative 9 instead of positive 9. So negative 3 times positive 3 equals a negative 9. Now this time I've got 3 positive sets. I'm beginning with 3 positive sets, but in each set I have 3 negative soldiers. So what I have are 3 sets of negative 3 soldiers. What do I have altogether? So if I do 3 positive sets times the negative 3 in each set, my answer is negative 9. Stand at attention, young man. So a positive 3 times a negative 3 equals negative 9. Same situation, at least to start with. I've got 3 positive sets of negative 3 soldiers. But this time, I want to keep my negative soldiers. I just want to make my set the opposite. So instead of positive 3 sets, I want to take the opposite of the positive 3 set and do the negative of it. But I want to keep my soldiers negative. Well, I'm going to keep my soldiers negative, but I'm going to take the opposite of the set. The entire set, take the opposite of negative is positive. And I must do that with each set. So then I end up with positive soldiers in every set, or at least the set is positive, of my negative soldiers, because I had to take the opposite of the set. Now what's being displayed is negative 3, the solution to negative 3 sets of negative 3 soldiers. So I have negative 3 times negative 3, which equals positive 9. What do you see here? Well, you should see 3 positive sets of 2 positive soldiers. So basically what I have is 3 sets of 2 soldiers, or 3 times 2, which equals 6. Now here I have the same thing, except this time I want to keep my soldiers positive. So I'm going to keep my soldiers positive. I want to change my set to negative. Here's a positive set. Well, I want to make them negative. So I have 3 negative sets of 2 positive soldiers. Well, I've got to make my sets negative now. I'm going to take the opposite of what I have, because negative means to take the opposite of, or the inverse, sort of. So negative 3 sets times 2 positive soldiers in each set actually results in a negative solution. So negative 3 times positive 2 equals negative 6. So I want to keep my sets positive, but the soldiers in each set are negative. So what I have here is 3 sets of 2 negatives, or negative 2. 3 sets of negative 2 soldiers, or 3 times negative 2 equals negative 6. A positive times a negative equals a negative. Here I have the same thing, but instead I want to make my sets negative. So I'm going to take my positive away. I keep my soldiers negative, but the set, I want to take the opposite of the 3 sets, which would be negative. So I need to take the opposite of it. The opposite of what I have here would be positive. The opposite of this would be positive. And the opposite of this would be positive. So a negative 3 times a negative 2 equals positive 6. Because I have negative, I started with negative 3 sets of negative 2 soldiers. Negative 3 times negative 2 equals positive 6. Let's do a couple examples on division, which is just multiplication in reverse. So here I have 8 soldiers, 8 positive soldiers. I want to divide these positive soldiers into 4 positive groups. So I'm going to take them and put them into 4 equal groups. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many soldiers are in each group? Positive 2. So a positive 8 divided by a positive 4 equals a positive 2. This time, I'm beginning with 8 negative soldiers. So I'll start with negative 8. I want to take those 8 negative soldiers and divide them up into 4 positive groups. So negative 8 soldiers divided into 4 positive groups. There's 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups, 4 groups. Almost sounded like a Dr. Seuss book, except it didn't rhyme. Now, what's in each group? 2 negative soldiers. So I took a negative 8 and I divided it into 4 groups, 4 positive groups. I ended up with negative 2 in each group. So that is an example of a negative 8 divided by positive 4 equals negative 2. What I hope you got from this episode today is that when you're multiplying or dividing numbers that have a different sign, the solution is going to be negative. If it has the same sign, the numbers have the same sign when you're multiplying or dividing, the answer is always going to be a positive answer. So 1 negative and positive multiplied or divided will be a negative solution. 2 negative numbers would have a positive solution. 2 positive numbers would also have a positive solution. And the other thing that I'm hoping you understood today, but it's not imperative, is that why it occurs. Why is a solution negative or positive when multiplying or dividing? If you didn't understand it, don't sweat it. It's no big deal. It's not something that's going to majorly impact your life. If you're not able to understand why that is so, it's not really a major hurdle or obstacle in your way of being successful in any field, really. But just know that it is a rule and apply it. And do your best. And I hope that I was able to show you and demonstrate to you why that is. But if not, just leave me a comment. If you have any suggestions, I'll take them. Like I said, I don't know if that was the best way to show it. I don't even know if it made sense to you, but I've tried the best way I know how. But anyway, you can leave me a comment and we'll go from there. Anyway, thanks for joining and watching, and I'll see you in another episode.